One of her advocacy, awakening soul-led living after 40. Other than Miss Anna Quigley. Welcome, Miss Anna on Africa. Saying, can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Thank you, Daniel. I love being here with you.
Yes, thank you, thank you. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss, Miss Anna?
Sure. I consider myself a transformational speaker and a catalyst, not necessarily coaching, but inspiring, motivating, and igniting the purpose that each of us have at different times in our lives, particularly in midlife.
And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Anna. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And today we're gonna talk about, and today we're gonna talk about midlife crisis. No, it's a midlife calling. So tell us, what is the most important distinction between midlife crisis and a midlife calling?
Well, when we get to that point, mid 40s and beyond, we often find there's a level of dissatisfaction, if you will. It could be already a wonderful marriage and family and a great career, but there's an opening, there's a little bit of a calling that happens in that period. Oftentimes it comes in the form of, yeah, life is good, but is this it? Am I going to be doing this for the next 30 or 40 years of my life? There has to be something more. And that's why I call this literally a calling. It appears as a crisis sometimes with that strong urge to make a change and to shift, sometimes very radically from what our life looked like or even what we expected our life to be when we were, let's say, in our early 20s. And it's really waking up to the soul's calling. It's an opportunity to make a change, to really rediscover what you're really here in this life to do. I believe every one of us has a unique purpose that only we can share in our unique way. And there's often breadcrumbs through our life, and that's what that energy is that starts building up. And it can happen at different points in our life, but most significantly around midlife, where we just feel a whisper of a pull towards something different. It's not starting again, and it's not breaking apart like we think of as a crisis. We have to blow our life up. It's more a calling to the next step, a calling to the purpose for the next part of your life, whatever that looks like. So it's something deeper. It's something deeper.
Something deeper for sure. So tell us, Miss Anna, what are the common early signs that what someone is experiencing is actually a suppressed calling knocking at the door rather than just burnout or dissatisfaction?
One of the things that I have my clients do is some self-assessment. There are, again, moments in our lives from day one where we just intuitively feel joy. We're doing something that brings us happiness that we love doing. In our 20s, we may decide, or earlier, that it's not a practical path to take for a career. Oftentimes, that's the case with, and particularly artistic endeavors, but not exclusively. Or it's like, it doesn't really make sense. Can I make a living doing that? But those moments of satisfaction, those moments of joy are signs. Those are roadmaps that are kind of leading us in the direction of really where we need to be to be going. Another thing that I have my clients look at, and I think this is true for so many people, what we value, and part of it is our Western culture, what we value is what we've had to work really hard for. Things that we've struggled and we've learned and we've worked really hard or put a lot of time in. And it's actually the opposite. It's the things that come so naturally to us, the things that are easy, the things that our friends and our family go, how can you do that? How do you live that way? Or how do you know how to do that particular skill? And oftentimes we dismiss it because it's who we are. It's such a strong innate part of our DNA that we just think it's not as important as the things we've efforted for. And we have it backwards. Those are the things that are calling us, those things that we just do because it's who we are, that are the things that we really need to be focusing on. So taking what we've learned, all the tools we've gathered in our life so far, and shifting the focus to the things that we have just innately in us, those amazing talents and gifts that are ours alone.
Miss Anna, how does our identity need to evolve at midlife? Are we being called to move from the hero who conquers the external world to the sage or sovereign who rules their inner world?
I love the way you put that. Yes, I absolutely believe that. But the sage is who we actually are. That inner person, that inner sense of what our gifts are, and that's what's bubbling up. Again, it's been in us. We're born with these innate abilities. We're born with intuition. It's built into every one of us, and our intuition throughout our life is always working to guide us to ourself, to that inner sage, to that wise person, that wise element of us that we're here to share and here to express. And listening to our intuition, following those inklings and those callings is one way that we can move more quickly and more directly to that life that's fulfilling, even more so than any success we may have had previously.
Fulfilling indeed. And Miss Anna, you frame discontent not as a problem to be solved, but as a signal. What is the deeper message our relentless and unease are trying to send us?
It's really a wake up call from our soul. The deeper need is to satisfy the inner self, to satisfy that highest level of our uniqueness, our special purpose here in this life. I call it our journey to purpose, this process of uncovering, really. There's no discovery because it's always been within us. But the practical part of life, it does get covered up. So it's a little bit of an archaeological dig, is what are those pieces and how do we go about finding them? Self-assessment is a big first step. And again, it's looking and shifting from what's what's now, what do I do next, to let's start thinking about what's possible. Where do I want to go? Where can I go? And then tying those pieces together.
Together indeed, and Miss Anna on the journey of discovery. In the noise of midlife responsibilities, how can someone even begin to hear the quiet voice of their calling?
It can be a challenge, but like any skill, you can learn. You can learn it. You can practice it. The old thing: how do you get the Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. It's the same with learning to recognize your intuition, and that intuition is the divine guidance that is leading us to that purpose. It's difficult with everything going on in our lives. We're so busy to find quiet moments. The more we can do that, the more we can take 5 minutes. Even 5 minutes a day can transform our life in quiet contemplation. It could be meditation. It could be running on the beach. It could be sitting in your car for 5 minutes before you go into the house at the end of the day and giving yourself time. I always also call it the power of the shower. You know, being in water or just how often have we come up with ideas and just solutions to problems when we're just relaxed? We've kind of tuned down the volume of the everyday life and the chaos and the activities, and we have to take care of the kids and have to get to work and have an appointment. Finding that moment throughout the day lets that signal of the inner divine, the inner calling, start speaking. And it will speak to us through our senses.
Miss Anna, tell us. A calling often involves reclaiming passions or talents we set aside on our youth. How do we safely and responsibly reconnect with those disowned parts of ourselves?
What do you mean, how do we safely connect with that? I'm curious. That's an interesting way to phrase that.
How do we connect or reconnect with those parts of our things, that part of ourselves that we say it's not included in our daily habits?
Hmm. Again, intuition is a strong way of learning to recognize it. Quiet moments when you wake up in the morning, quite often, because you've been quieting down. You haven't been in the midst of all of the busyness of the day. Quite often you'll find, oh, that's a solution. There's the idea. That's something I've been working on, and I could just do that. Same thing with time in nature. Nature is so powerful. It's stepping away from the noise. We get 11 million bits of information coming out every single second, but only 1% really is picked up by our brain. The rest we pick up through our senses. So those gut feelings that we have, repetitive auditory or visual cues. If someone tells you about a particular place or a particular book, or you hear about it 2 or 3 times in short succession, that's something to pay attention to. There's something there for you. That's you're getting a repetitive signal on an idea or a concept or a piece of information that's going to help move you forward. Listening to those cues that come through our body, that's our intuition speaking to us. And then too, it's also working with energy. Um, and neuroplasticity is extraordinary. We can reprogram our mind through energy, through working with these our senses, sensory imagination, and start programming ourselves to open up to these ideas, to these possibilities. It's extraordinary what we can do when we imagine, and even if you don't know what it is that what it looks like, what exactly it is that's your next step, when you start thinking and feeling what's it going to be like when you are living a life that is so fulfilling, brings you joy, satisfaction, you're giving back to others, you're doing the work that just feels authentically you. The more of that you can feel, the more of that you can imagine on every level using every sense, you're literally reprogramming, re-engineering your brain to help you create that. The brain doesn't know the difference between reality, and what we feel and what we fully imagine through all of our senses. When we do it to full impact, our brain goes, oh, okay, that's what we're creating. Let's bring everything to you that's going to fulfill that. You'd be amazed at the ideas and the opportunities that present themselves when you're functioning at that new, elevated, energetic level.
Miss Anna, how much of a midlife crisis is actually a sound of society should collapsing under the weight of our own authentic desires?
There are so many societal pressures, particularly, well, and I won't say particularly in the West, I think it's a global phenomenon now, of the responsibilities. This is how our life is supposed to be. And some of that is self imposed. When we're young, we have a picture of how we want our lives to look. And again, even if we've been very successful, we've had a good relationship, and you know, maybe the kids go out of the house, and all of a sudden there's that shift to I'm stuck. You know, I'm afraid of making a change, but I'm afraid of not. It's almost like a nagging that there's something more, or even a fear that, oh, well, is it too late? Is it too late to make a change? All of these elements can hold us back and keep us locked in the situation that we're in that is feeling not as fulfilling. It's part of the wake up call. It's that a creative threshold, if you will, that's presenting itself. The door is opening. We have to have the courage and the faith and the confidence to step through that door.
Yes. Courage, people, courage.
Courage.
And Miss Anna, how can the wisdom, skills, and resilience we built in the first half of our career become the very foundation of our calling in the second half?
That's such a wonderful point because when we think of midlife crisis, it feels like, and we've been kind of taught that it's a blowing up of the life that you've had, and that's absolutely not true. You want to, the life that you've lived so far, at whatever stage you are, those are the gifts, those are the tools, that's the skill, the information, the knowledge you've acquired that's built this amazing foundation. If you think of it as engineering your life, you've got a solid foundation of information, of experience. When we get to midlife, we have gained wisdom and we have a better sense of what's important and what's not as important. And we take that foundation and all of that knowledge and all of the skills and everything that we've learned, and we use that as a launching pad. We use that as a launching pad as we tap into then not the practical, so many of the practical elements, but the passion, the joy, those elements, again, tapping back and looking back at the things that come easily and effortlessly and just naturally to us, and that also make us feel fulfilled, fill us with joy and satisfaction. Bringing those two together, it's extraordinary what can happen.
Extraordinary indeed. And Miss Anna, tell us what are the or how does shifting the focus from building a resume to building a legacy change the choices we make at a midlife?
Can you repeat that, please? From building,
How
I
does
didn't
yeah?
hear all of that question.
How does the shifting the focus from building a resume to building a legacy the change the choices that we make at midlife?
I love the word legacy. I love that word. It it speaks volumes about what's possible. Again, it's taking everything that we've learned, but now what is it that we're leaving behind? Whether it's starting another career, if it is sharing information, giving back everything that you have learned, everything that you've garnered, experientially, wisdom on all of those levels. How can you benefit future generations with that? What is the legacy that you want to leave? It could be creating something entirely new. It could be a self expression that touches people, moves them emotionally, moves them psychologically, that benefits them and moves them. But it's what what are you going to leave behind when you leave this life? What do you want to have accomplished? Is it, reaching the glass ceiling at a corporate thing, or making a difference in 100 people's lives?
Miss Anna, is true calling always in some way tied to contributing to something larger than ourselves? So, how does service become a key component?
I believe it does. We're not here, in my belief, to simply serve ourselves. We're here to work together, to work with each other. We're here to shift either the awareness, the consciousness, the the well-being of others around us. That, I believe, is where true fulfillment comes from. And so often we see that as the legacy. It's the being and sharing and giving, not directly for yourself, but from yourself. Giving everything that you've learned and acquired and have in you to the benefit of others. It's very altruistic. It really is. But at the same time, in really finding that sweet spot of what that is, you you can have a life that is so fulfilling and truly authentic that it's not only giving to the rest of the planet, but you are finding really true satisfaction, fulfillment in your own life.
Miss Anna, what are your short term and long term goals?
My short term goal, in a way, is my long term goal. I left the corporate world a couple of years ago. I had been following my own breadcrumbs, always working on and exploring how people found their purpose. How did that come to them? And what were the signs and clues that they found that led them to their life of fulfillment? And I've made a commitment in my own life that that's what I choose to do. That is what I believe is why I'm here, is to share the experiences I've had that have led me to this point in my life, as well as those experiences of others. So that's short term for me. Long term, if I could change the life and help 1,000 people find their purpose, their true legacy, and step into that life and live that fully and authentically, I would be blessed and blissed beyond belief. And if it's more than 1,000 people, that would be an even greater blessing. But that's my big goal. My short goal, I'm doing it a person or a group of people at a time. But that's my commitment to my life for the rest of my life.
Yes, and good luck to your goals and looking forward for more success, Miss Anna. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
I'm sorry, say again, Daniel.
Can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Oh, there's so many. There are so many. I'm a fan of biographies.
Mm-hmm.
I strongly recommend reading the life of other people. I think we learn from each other. I know I have, and that's part of why I'm sharing not only my own journey, but the journey of others that I've had the pleasure to interview and work with. So look at biographies. How did the people that have biographies written about them, how did they achieve the legacy that they're living? And start thinking about, again, how you can live yours as well.
Interesting, and thank you for that recommended book, Miss Anna. And what would be your piece of advice for those people out there want to be like you?
First and foremost, it is never too late.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard from so many people that get to midlife, oh, I think it's too late to start a new career or to begin again starting from scratch, but it's not. It's not starting from scratch. It's going through a new door. Again, with the foundation that you've already had.
Yes,
Have
it's
the
not
faith
too
and
late.
yeah, have the faith and the courage to know that there's more and there's more work, there's more opportunity, there's more possibilities for you. If you're feeling that calling, listen to it, follow it, take a leap of faith. Take
Mm-hmm.
the first step. I get to see about 3 feet in front of me. Uh, but every time I listen to the 3 feet and take those steps that get me that 3 feet ahead, then the following 3 feet shows up. I don't get to see the whole picture from here to the end. It's that's where trust and faith and knowing how to recognize your intuition that is guiding you rather than the emotion and the rational mind. Uh, that's a big that's a big part of it.
Thank you for that advice, Miss Anna. And tell us if you could give one piece of advice, one small but significant action for someone ready to listen for their midlife. What would it be?
It would be to start listening to the ways that your intuition is speaking to you. I find it helpful to write it down, to track. Um, we have an experience maybe where intuition kind of, we have that nudge and we listen to it. And 2 days later, what happened? What was that? Write it down. Keep a journal of when those moments happen. It builds confidence. It builds trust. In also note what if there is any outcome. Sometimes we don't know why we're being led in one direction or another. When we don't listen to it, we often find out why we were guided one way. But start make journaling, write it down on a piece of paper and put each incident in a jar or a box. And you'd be amazed how often you start recognizing throughout the day, multiple times that you're being guided to your higher self. That's definitely a key. And look back at all the moments and the incidents and the experiences that you have that bring joy, that make you just feel authentic, that make you feel you.
Yes, Miss Anna Quigley. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your business, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
I would love to, thank you. And I'd like to offer what I call the second act workbook. Just a little bit of not the primer, a few questions that you can download for free from second act playbook.com. And it gets you starting to think about what your core beliefs are and what brings you joy. Just a little way to start turning and start looking at those things. Uh, my website is journeytopurpose.org. I do one-on-one counseling and group counseling and would love to help anyone that is ready to take that next step, to move through this portal, if you will, from crisis to calling.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Anna Quigley because if you support her for sure, more and more empowering advocacy will rise. So, Miss Anna, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Dan. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Modicon people, see you soon.